Hey guys, Loon here. So, day 3. No, I need to get off of this topic because I remember why. One of the reasons why I got so tired of talking about all the Battlefield stuff is that, damn, the weird sort of quasi toxicity that goes along with it is so horrible that it gets under your skin and it makes you feel just dirty, honestly. And just from scouring around Twitter and YouTube and reading some stuff today, and quite honestly just looking at other producers, I'm not going to name names because that just never seems to be constructive, but you know, you probably know who I'm talking about, and if you go have a look for yourself, just literally browse around. The Star Wars Battlefront community seems to be one of the most defensive communities and the most kind of like focused. I think it's like any game though, you know, any game, you get the fanboys who just literally, you know, they will swear that black is white. It doesn't take a lot to look around and just find these people, and you know, any small change where it barely makes any difference to anything is like a huge change, and it's amazing and it's going to be great. I did this whole commentary just unscripted off the cuff today, and there was one very important point that I forgot to make because I've thought about this topic many times, and this one today, because I was just talking off the cuff, I forgot. This is a really important point which very rarely gets talked about, and people should think about this. People should think about this all the time. It is not just about, when YouTube producers are talking about a game, it is not just about their relationship with the company, okay? It's actually about their YouTube channel, and people should be very aware of this. Most YouTube producers focus on a couple of games, maybe even one core game. So it's unusual for them to focus on a lot of different games. It's pretty hard to do that. So in focusing on one type of game or one genre of game, that means that when that next product is coming out, it could be detrimental to be too aggressive in your criticism of that game. Now, I'm not talking about people that may make objective videos saying like, you know, this should be improved, that should be improved. People like objectivity. People like thinking constructively and going like, okay, how can we improve things? But sometimes you have just got to say things which are very frank, very stark. And often you'll find people think like, you know, I don't want to call it what it is. I want to skirt around that issue. And quite honestly, sometimes people just give things a free pass. This issue with Battlefront and the card system is one of those. People are way too quick to give excuses. And not only that, there's actually some more core fundamental problems beyond the mechanics. It's more to do with ethics. It's more to do with, you know, look, if they could get away with this, you think that they wouldn't, and those are the issues, and that's the kind of stuff that people need to call out. And let's be real, there are some producers who do this. There are some producers who literally will put up a video and say, you know, is this game like whatever, you know, they will call it what it is. But there are plenty of producers, big producers, who will skirt around the fact. And as I say, this is only a negative thing. It affects you, and it does affect the industry because it helps to lead the discussion. You know, it points the discussion in a certain direction, and it makes these kind of things passable. It makes people feel like this is an acceptable thing where you're just going to go, oh, you know what, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And at the end of the day, people want it to be okay. People want it to be okay. But it's like, you should just be more grounded about this and not give these things too easy a pass. And you know, this is a tricky game. It's a tricky game to play. It's a fine line. And I can understand why people get confused with this, because there is a difference between making genuine objective criticism and not minding if you offend the developers. And there's a difference between that and people making token gestures where they are like 90% positive about something, and then they throw in the odd little video here to kind of muddy the water and throw you off track, you know? And I see that as well. You know, you see producers who talk like 90% positive about everything, and then they'll throw in like an objective video here and there, which seems generally critical, but they'll usually round it off with like, but hey, you know, everything else is looking awesome and blah, blah, blah. And it's always leaning in that kind of positive direction. And it's in too much of a way, you know. At the same time, you don't want to be just like extremely full-on abusively negative, but you know, sometimes something, you know, you got to call it what it is. It's as clear as day. You know, you can see what they're trying to get to. That's the core of the matter. What they do after the fact, no matter how much they dress it up afterwards, no matter how many free passes they get given afterwards, it doesn't alter the fact that we can see what you were trying to do, and they say it any other way. You got to call it what it is. So that's why I say specifically, YouTubers are complicit. They're enabling this kind of behavior with this microtransaction bullshit. Because if people don't take a stand and say, listen, this is fucking bullshit in any form, okay? I don't care what tweaks and changes they make after the fact. The fact that it's even in there, the fact that it's in the core element of the game means that they have... Look, you think that they wouldn't do it if they could get away with it? Are you joking? If they could get away with it, they'd be fleecing you all day long. And that's why I say it is wrong to try and misrepresent this as anything other than it is. And look, I'm going to be totally honest. I'm going to hold my hands up. You know, I think, and I've said this before, I think when I was involved with EA and Hardline, I think I gave them way too much leniency. I think I gave them way too much benefit of the doubt. And as I say, I have said this before, you know, I hold my hands up and say, I think I was too involved there. And I think I gave actually not accurate opinions from me about that stuff. And it just shows how you got to be real careful that you don't get in bed with it. And it's like, there are producers who are fully in bed. And there seems to be no blowback to the producers, because it's kind of like EA are a company that it's okay to hate. This has been a thing for ages. It's like EA, it's okay to hate EA, and it's okay to hate Ubisoft. But that never seems to go towards producers. The weird thing is like, YouTube producers in general always seem to have like a base community, a base audience. Like look at the CSGO Lotto stuff, like with all the gambling things when it was like T Martin and Syndicate. And I'm not naming those guys to call them out, I'm just naming it because everybody knows that those were the two guys that were involved with the CSGO Lotto stuff. We've seen the story since now where, you know, basically that whole issue has moved on. Syndicate, I think, handled that whole situation. You know, if you want to look at it from just like how to handle that situation, like where they got involved with it, Syndicate handled that situation a lot better because he basically put out his statements around that whole thing, and then he was like, right, now that's it. And T Martin went on and on and on, and he dragged it along a bit, you know. But, you know, we all saw that. It was all in the news, and everybody's seen all those bits and pieces now. But a funny thing is like, you've seen this again and again and again with producers, and I never understand this. And not just producers in gaming, but other YouTube producers that have like scandals and things like this where something happens and it's really terrible. And it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre where they seem to like, they have a terrible month or two where like everything goes like apocalyptic. And then they seem to just kind of rise from the ashes like a phoenix, and everything's just fine, and everything goes back to normal. And I find that so weird. And often, like, when you look around at some of the scandals that have happened in YouTube, some of these things can be absolutely, like, life-destroying, and yet somehow they seem to just come out the other side, like, with no issues whatsoever. But getting back, and I just find that whole thing very weird. Like, it's strange how people can literally just wash it from their mind, or literally they just don't care. They're just like, hey, I like watching these fun little videos, and I don't care about any of that stuff. Personally, myself, I just find that super weird. Like, I can't imagine that you couldn't sort of think, well, this is so bad that I just don't want to be involved with this person anymore. Some people just don't care at all about that stuff, and that kind of thing always just shocks me. But coming back to the whole thing of being complicit, it's like, when you see people that are literally just straight up promoting something, like back to back, I do not understand how people can watch producers and then just see that as anything other than just straight up marketing, paid marketing. And it's bizarre. Like, it's so bizarre. It's just like, I'm just like, how are there people out there that just are fine with this? It's really strange. So, you know, I just kind of, I don't want to go on and on and on about this Star Wars thing because, like I say, I don't care that much about it. I certainly don't intend to buy it. I certainly don't intend to play it. But I think, like, when you look at it overall as like an industry thing, an industry issue, this is a really terrible example of how to do this. And like I say, the thing that really gets me, the crux of the matter, is that this kind of attempt to implement a really appalling microtransaction system into a game. And also, I am not buying even for a second the people that are saying it's better. I don't believe that at all. I think, like, when you read between the lines, like I said in my video, this is something which has been built into the core element of the game. And people saying, like, well, it's still going to be based on skill and it won't matter that much, and you're going to have, it doesn't matter if you have the cards because you've still got to have the skill to use them. You're missing the point. You're missing the point. Completely, you're missing the point. It is not about how your experience is. That's not what it's about. It's not about, like, is that person going to beat me? That's a degree of a point about it, but that is not the main point. The main point about it is, how is the person who is buying those cards getting screwed over by the company? And it's about them basically abusing their community. And, you know, if you want the example, just go watch the classic South Park with the freemium games and, you know, exploiting the hardest users. In the same way that any kind of addictive system, whether it's gambling, alcohol, or drugs, they systematically abuse the hardest users. So it's like maybe 90% of the people are not actually buying these things, but then there's like a small core who are buying a lot of these things, and that's where the money comes in from it. That's why it's a really fucked up system. It's not because it's necessarily going to be incredibly game-breaking and incredibly detrimental to the overall gameplay. That's not what it's about. It's about it being ethically a fucked up way of doing something. And like I say, that's why I personally find it really appalling when you have producers who can stand there and say like, hey, this is actually going to be awesome, this is going to be excellent, this is going to be totally great. Don't listen to what the news is saying, don't listen to what other producers are saying, listen to me. I tell you this is going to be a fantastic product, even though I'm literally right in bed with the company. Listen to me, this is going to be amazing. That is fucking awful. And like I say, they're complicit. They enable these companies to do these fucked up practices, and people should stand up and say this is not acceptable. And you know, it is important. It's important when people are spending their hard-earned money on something and you are basically telling them this product is amazing, this product is fantastic. You don't know that. You don't know that it's going to be amazing and fantastic. You are speculating. You need to be clear about that, and you need to say, look, it may be good, but it may also be bad. But I feel like this is an important point, and it's something that I genuinely believe. You know, it pisses me off. That's all I got to say. Thanks for watching, guys.